Thank you for having me today. I won't hold you up for too long. One of the main points I want to get across today is that forensic crash investigators throughout Australia, Tasmania, New Zealand, we aren't just reactive, okay, and we don't just look to prosecute. And we don't just look to prosecute for drivers involved. Okay, so I've trained a lot of Australian police services with crash investigation. And the main aims or points behind the role of a crash investigator is to look at proactively what's caused a crash, how can we prevent a crash occurring again, and we look at the human factor, which is not just the driver, it's also the human element in relation to the maintenance of the vehicles, the processes within that company, all run by humans, and also the environment. And it was mentioned earlier on about the roads, the road surfaces, the road designs. That's something that we look at as well. And they're all recommendations that we make to the authorities, and in Queensland it's Transport and Main Roads, make to the authorities to try and prevent something occurring again involving a heavy vehicle or just normal transport vehicles. So luckily in Queensland, obviously the bulk tanker serious incidents are infrequent. However, when they do occur, they're catastrophic. And that's when my team and myself attend. Okay, so when we approach, as I reiterate that we're not approaching just for enforcement. We need to prevent these incidents occurring, prevent drivers dying, prevent public dying, other members of the public and other vehicles. So 99%, however, of the crashes that I've attended, and most crash investigators have attended, are human error. Okay, and in a lot of instances, even in the heavy vehicle incidents, the driver's not at fault in many cases. But that doesn't eliminate the scrutiny that would be put on that driver, on that vehicle, on that company, on that road. Okay, the same amount of scrutiny. So how do I measure performance in relation to an investigation, reactive and proactive, is we want to see evidence of a company, a driver, a road authority implementing due diligence and safety measures. Okay, so that includes technology. So a lot of vehicles and trailers now, okay, are technology enabled. That's the data that we will interrogate and we'll interpret. So, and we'll also look at safe work. We'll look at chain of responsibilities, and that the company has sufficient resources to minimise the risk. If we make recommendations to the coroner, it's not just about the vehicle, the road, it might be the safety systems within a certain organisation or an industry or legislation. So how do we share safety performance? I think and Adam certainly spoke about it, it's the communication between the executives, the fleet managers, from the bottom up. We're finding a lot of broken communication in relation to drivers. When we question drivers on the side of the road, if it's compliance check or as a result of a crash, a lot of the drivers have poor knowledge, perhaps of vehicle maintenance, what system they're operating under, what permits they're operating under. Just recently in March, for example, we've got a heavy vehicle enforcement team that travelled the state. They did 205 heavy vehicle compliance checks, not just bulk tankers obviously, but 250 heavy vehicle compliance checks with 141 infringements issued and 16 court notices. So they're being proactive for my unit and my investigators. They're trying to identify and prevent issues, and it's important that the company and the owners, fleet managers, are aware of these compliance checks when they're being interrogated by police on the side of the road. I'm not sure if there is a lot of communication back from the drivers to managers there as well, but there needs to be that communication, that consultation between managers, drivers, and also consultation with industry experts as well. In relation to my role and our heavy vehicle enforcement role, we go to industry, we go to companies, and we provide toolbox talks, we provide case studies. Certainly there's many case studies of good practices and deficient practices. There's also, we outline how we interrogate the system, okay? All our compliance checks as well, mechanical inspections. We work with heavy vehicle regulator. We work with workplace health and safety. We bring all the experts in to find out the cause and recommendations. So my tips for improved safety outcomes is that the driver and that vehicle do represent the company. Whether they're at fault or not in relation to an incident, your company, your fleet manager, your admin staff, everyone will come under scrutiny, whether it's in a criminal capacity or a coronial capacity. That's down to the fact that even a driver fills out a form saying that he thinks there's a defect. That goes into the tray in the admin office. What happens to it then? We want to see, and we will interrogate that system. We'd like to see more electronic systems, so it's more efficient, but I've seen in many cases that form stays in that admin box. The administration staff aren't sure what to do with that, and then you've got your chain of responsibility as well. So that will all come under scrutiny, but can be prevented and eliminated with proactive safety systems, okay, with training, education and consultation. Something else that I think from a safety perspective that Adam touched on is fleet managers and managers need to know how to interrogate that data as well. Download that data to see which drivers are driving to the threshold of brake applications, speed, fatigue. If we can see that you're interrogating that data as well and implementing systems to prevent that driver from driving in that way or fixing that vehicle or maintaining that vehicle, we present that to the coroner, we present that to the industry, we present that to the court. That's a reflection on your operations as well. Certainly there is reputations. Some reputations precede some drivers, some companies, and there was a recent incident up in central Queensland with a tanker that came out with flying colours in regards to the camera system, the in-car camera system. A lot of companies might install cameras, but as soon as it loses power, it loses recording. The technology now with, for example, the camera systems is once that vehicle hits a deceleration rate, it starts recording and it's got a backup battery system and a cloud base recording. Things like that of inside the cab, you can see what the driver's doing, you can see what's happening in front, and there's also, this vehicle had 2 cameras, one either side of the tanks at the back, to show you that the truck was stable, it was within its lane, and in that situation, which happens a lot in the crashes that we've attended over the years, is especially fatigue related, if you've got a vehicle coming towards your driver and it starts veering on the wrong side of the road, what will your driver do? Okay, most times they will take evasive action. They might go onto the incorrect side of the road. There's a collision, police turn up, my investigators turn up. Obviously, there's a lot of investigation looking at the physical evidence, but it might initially, to the lay person, to the initial police response, to your ambulance, to your fireys, to your witnesses that turn up, it looks like that tanker is on the wrong side of the road. So in this case, the footage from this tanker showed that the other vehicle was on the incorrect side of the road, and this poor tanker driver, he went to try and evade, and then that vehicle's come back in front. So that system, that company, that tanker, that driver are all compliant. Mechanically, fatigue-related logbook, and having this crash data as well, we could see what speed he was travelling at, we could see the GPS of what route he'd taken, and also looking at this camera, because some of the footage that we can't recover. So it's a safety system to save your driver, to save your company as well. It's not just reactive for prosecution, it's prevention, and it's a safe system for your drivers. So I think that's about it. There's just one thing I just want to touch on, which is, before I go, that might be coming from left field, but in my experience, the health of your drivers as well, in your mental health in relation to what they see on the road, because they're on the road all the time, and also being involved in crashes, they can never turn around if there's something happen up ahead. They might get stuck for hours, but they'll always go up and help. So they're seeing what's happening out there on the road. So I find that the mental health of the drivers, just in their work environment and what they see on the road and the near misses, that's something that proactively I recommend to companies as well, to have referral services, have support, have some training. And also I'm seeing a lot of suicide by heavy vehicles, and in that is motorcyclist vehicles deliberately driving into the path of a heavy vehicle. So that's something that to think about as well, to support your drivers and implement a safe system to protect them using crash data, using cameras, using GPS and monitoring systems. Thank you.